look at what people can do, not what they can't do.
Yeah.
And when you start flipping that switch, you're surprised yourself, because people look at all sorts of different people as to what they can't do, and that, oh, well, we need to do this because they can't do that. If you look at it and go, well, let's see what they can do, let's see what people in these situations can actually do, and then you provide it, the impact, and I'll keep using the word throughout this whole interview, the impact is life-changing.
Welcome, Mr. Andrew Pope, to Being Human, our fireside chat. Listen, mate, it's great to have you here, and let's go through your background, because I think for the listeners and the viewers, they'll be interested to know a little bit about your background, and obviously we'll bring it forward all the way to entrepreneurial, running your own business now as you are. But I think let's go right the way back to the start. I asked you in the car on the way down, actually, and I didn't know this about you. Scarborough was kind of where I knew you from, but there was a little bit of background before that, which I think is important because it rounds out what I know about you. So, born in Aldershot.
Correct, yeah. Home of the British Army, yeah.
Yeah, so just give us a little bit of background on that, obviously from a family life perspective as you were in your younger years.
So, yeah, quite right. I was born in Aldershot. Dad was in the army. And so he happened to be based in Aldershot when I was born. And so from there on, we moved every 18 months to 2 years. Dad got a posting. Unfortunately for me, they got all their exotic postings out the way before I came along. So they did Hong Kong and they did Sri Lanka, or Ceylon as it was called then, and the other interesting places. So the most interesting place we went to was Germany, I'm afraid. But we had great fun in Germany for 2 years. But yeah, we got posted around south of England, bit of up in Thirsk and Catterick as well, until I was 8 years old. And then at that point, I was really enjoying playing for a local football team, and we'd had a good season when Mum and Dad came home and said, right, we're off, the next move's coming up. And I was disappointed at that point because it was I'd got settled in, and that was the first time I can actually remember being a bit disappointed that we were having to move, because the rest of the time it was all excitement, new house, new school, new people to play with, etc. And yeah, it was so at that point, Mum and Dad offered me the opportunity to go to boarding school. And with the theory being that the friends that you had then would be the ones that would go all the way through to 18. You wouldn't have to move school. Mum and Dad were sort of looking at it from a point of view as you would do your exams in the same school. You'd go all the way through in consistency and not being moved around. And the chances are I would have probably been moving at some point during GCSEs or A-level time. And from my point of view, it just seemed like one big adventure. It was a chance just to go away and not necessarily to get away from my parents, but to sort of be on my own, bit of independence even at that age. So I just said, yeah, just have a go at that. Yeah. So Scarborough was chosen because my grandparents lived there. My mum and dad's mum and dad sorry, my mum's mum and dad were there. So that's why there was a bit of sort of local, someone to look after me, keep an eye on me. And that's why we chose Scarborough, and had a great time. And so whenever I've met people since, because from 8 to 18 is where I grew up, most of my time was spent in Scarborough. Yeah. It's just easier to say that I'm from Scarborough rather than giving people the slightly extended version that you've had now.
Yeah. What was so, I mean, obviously we've had a few people on here talking about their childhood. This is the first one that's clearly slightly different from a boarding school perspective. What was that like? I mean, what do you take from it now as a grown adult looking back on it? I mean, that's a pretty, 8 to 18 is a pretty long stretch. Yeah. Kind of, I guess not on your own, but on your own independently. Yeah. So what was that like?
I was very fortunate. The first day I arrived, I was given another pupil my age to sort of show me the ropes, which was Neil, who you've met. Yeah. First person I met there, and we're still best friends to this day, so sort of 42 years later. Yeah. And so that bedrock of that friendship, and I always remind him of this, at the end of the first week he said to me, he said, right, I've shown you around now. I'm off to play with my own friends. And 42 years later, he still hasn't shaken me.
Yeah.
So, but no, I was very lucky in that relationship hit off very quickly. Very different people, but we had the same sense of humour, and we just hit it off straight away. So that made things so much easier. And then it was just, it was just doing sport. We did sport every day. Our evenings were filled with just playing with your friends. We were given a certain amount of freedom and independence just to not necessarily roam Scarborough, but certainly roam the grounds that we were in. So it was just, I don't know any different. So it seems perfectly normal to me that was how my life was at that time, and made some very good friends. As you do at any school, had one or two ups and downs, but in the main, thoroughly enjoyed it, and probably am, for good and for bad, the person that I am today because of that experience.
So, Andy, we talked in the car on the way down just a little bit about that independence that you had to find at boarding school, and it's very different to what we've heard before. So, if you could just, the values that you've taken through in life now to we look at our kids and what that brings. You talked about having to do things yourself and learn very quickly how to look after yourself. What was that like? Yeah,
so you had to be independent quite quickly. The expectations were that you'd have your own uniform ready for school. Your shoes would be clean. You would have your books. You'd have your PE kit ready. You'd make your bed in the morning. You'd hang your towel up. You'd brush your teeth. All those things were just accepted. You didn't have somebody coming round saying to you, have you brushed your teeth yet? Have you got your books ready for school? Have you got your trainers in your kit bag today? You had to do all that. And you very quickly learned that if you didn't, then you were just sat out. That's it. Until you got your stuff sorted. So it was, it just meant that it became very routine to be prepared and look after yourself. And so the downside of that, though, is that you do then have a certain detachment from other things because you're very used to being independent. You're very used to just doing things for yourself. So when other people come along in your life who might want to do stuff for you or do things that you would normally do, it's quite a challenge, because then you start thinking, well, actually, I'm used to doing that on my own. I don't need you to do that now. And so, there is a downside to it. But certainly in terms of children, that is interesting, because my kids will sort of say, well, I haven't got that ready, or I haven't got my school bag. And I find that challenging to say, well, why haven't you got your school bag? And they'll look at me and go, well, because you find my school bag, don't you?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm going back 45 years nearly here. But it's still that you get yourself ready, you're prepared, you have that level of independence. So it is interesting. It does prepare you for that. It gives you other things as well. But it's certainly in terms of just having that ability to think for yourself, make sure that you're prepared, make sure you're ready, do everything you need to do in the morning, in the evening, before you go to bed. And then it kind of then runs fairly smoothly. But the expectation was that you would do that,
Yeah, and the word routine, I think, was prevalent to when you talked about it in the car. That routine was just how it was. It wasn't a thinking thing. It was just a doing thing.
No, and it's exactly the same with Saturday school. So when I say to people we had school on a Saturday morning, people are horrified at me and go, crikey, what was that like? That must have been awful. I didn't know any different from the age of 8. We got up, particularly with being a boarder, you got up, we saw your friends, you went to school in the morning, did some lessons with your friends. Afternoon was always a match or a fixture. So for me, that was perfect. You got to go and play for the school team, wherever we were playing that particular afternoon, with your friends. You'd come back, you'd then come back, you'd have your tea, you'd celebrate, you'd commiserate, you'd go off and do stuff again. That was just our Saturday routine. It would never have occurred to me I could have been sat at home, I could have been watching telly. That just wasn't, we just didn't do that. So it was never something that I felt I missed out on, or something that I wish had been different, because it just, as far as I was concerned, you were there anyway, and I was just seeing my friends again for the day. So it was, and you got to play sport in the afternoon.
Yeah, totally cool. Yeah. But it's definitely given you grounded. I mean, I've known you for a lot of years, and everything that you're talking about is you. I see that kind of period now that I know around boarding school and the 8 to 18 and the structure and the routine. That's you down to a T. And I think there's a lot of values that probably came out of being in that position and at that age that you've carried through right the way through your career.
Yeah. I mean, they're your formative years, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are the years that will shape a lot of what you are as a person, how you interact with the world, how you interact with other people. Those are your developmental years. You're going from being a child to an adult.
Yeah.
Literally, 18, you're an adult. You're off out into the world at that point. And some things it doesn't prepare you for. I'll be completely honest. The first time I got to university and was put into the halls of residence, which happened to be a house on campus, and we were sort of shown where the rooms were and whatever else, went to what they called a house meeting. And the first question I asked was, who's in charge? Who looks after us? And these guys looked at us and went, well, you're 18, you're adults. You don't need people looking after you. And I was like, oh, okay. Because we're used to having an adult around who was... And so from that side of things, there were some things you weren't necessarily prepared for, or certainly I wasn't prepared for as you got into the real world. But a lot of the other stuff, that just the basic principles of looking after yourself, doing what you need to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. So 18, we go off to uni.
Yeah.
What did you do at uni?
Not a lot, if I'm completely honest.
That's honesty.
Yes, so university wasn't my thing, to be perfectly honest. I didn't want to go. I'd kind of reached 18 and thought, I want to go and get a job now. I want to go out and earn some money. I want to get into the real world and do some stuff. I kind of done with education. And this is a definite lesson. If you want to do that, you then need to back it up by doing well in your exams. I didn't. And so my A-level results weren't great. And so as a backup, I reluctantly said to my parents, okay, well, I'll go to university. I'll go and get something that's a bit more meaningful than these results. And not really wanting to go. So I didn't exactly go with the attitude of, I want to be here, I want to be part of everything. And so therefore I kind of spent as little time as I needed to there. I sort of front-loaded the week with all my lectures and seminars, and then got home on Wednesday afternoon, played football at the weekends with you guys, as you know, came back down Monday morning and did it all again. Yeah. So did what I needed to do to get the qualification at the end of it. I did sports management with geography. I think you had to do a second thing. Geography, that'll do, chuck that in. Which was actually more the interesting part of it. So it was sport and leisure management. Yeah. But it was... I was a reluctant student, I think, is the best way of looking at it. I was glad to get it done the 3 years, and then I could do what I wanted to do 3 years hence, which was then get into the workplace and actually start putting into practice what I actually wanted to do and earn a bit of money while I was doing it.
And let's talk about the workplace.
Yeah.
Because that's where we first met, really. There was a bit of football before it, but from a work perspective... I gave you your first chance. No, I didn't. You worked for it. You came to obviously City of York Council, as it was then, and started working with the programme. And I'll let you talk about the programme. But we talked about this, and we talk about it over many years about the grounding that it gave us. But I think it's really interesting now that we see society kind of going through university, getting into maybe management jobs within leisure, and not necessarily having the background that probably we had from an early age. And it always sounds like I'm being oldie worldy. Oh, it was so much better back then. But I do think there's lessons there around apprenticeship, or like the grounding that you have. So just talk a little bit about, action sport as it was, and what that gave you as an individual coming into the workforce.
It was, in my opinion, the best grounding for this wider industry of sport, health, wellbeing, leisure that you could have. If you want to work in this industry, it's the equivalent of doing the apprenticeship, go and work on the shop floor, see what it's actually like at grassroots, meet people, get that connection with people. And then when you move into your sports development manager, your community manager, your assistant directors of sport, leisure, health, wellbeing, you've got a much better understanding of what it actually takes on the ground to work. What is going to actually resonate with people? What's going to have an impact? And that's the big thing, isn't it? Is what's the impact of the work you do? And we all like to think that the work we're doing is impactful. I'm very proud of everything we do at the moment. I don't know whether anything could be more impactful than that 2.5 years of what we did with the people that we did it with, and the difference we made to the lives of those people without being too exaggerated about it. It was completely life-changing for a lot of those people. Yeah. And when you sort of put that in the context of today, we're sort of 5 years after the pandemic, and we're still dealing with isolationism, we're still dealing with people who are cut off, people who still don't engage in physical activity, in social activities. That is exactly what action sport was. It was an opportunity for people to engage and be part of something and interact. And from that point, the impact was just tremendous. The fact that we had an absolute blast doing it, the fact that as three 21-year-olds and a 16-year-old as we were in that office, we enjoyed ourselves doing it. Yeah, I think only made us better at it, because I think our enjoyment was reflected in what we were doing, and I think people bought into that. And we will probably come on to some of the characters involved in that in a little bit. But the people saw us. We weren't just turn up to do a job. We weren't just there. Here you are. We'll open this door. We'll let you in this pool. We'll get this set of equipment out. We were completely engaged in it. We were completely involved in it. We enjoyed it, and we took people with us, and they enjoyed it, and they looked forward to it. And it was just such a fantastic opportunity that everything that I've gone on and done has only built on that grounding. It's never replaced it, or I've never reflected back and gone, well, if I'd have gone straight into there rather than doing that. There are other things I wish I'd done slightly differently. That bit, absolutely I would do.
I'm with you, mate. I remember I was probably 2 years before you joining where I'd started, straight out of football, straight into sports development. But I echo everything you've said. It was life-changing when I look back now. Didn't necessarily see it at the time, because we were young 20, 21-year-olds kind of finding our lives, but having fun doing it, and that's where we got creative. And we talk about things where, we don't prepare for speeches, or we're going into meetings. We don't necessarily need an agenda because we'll figure it out. All that for me came from action sport. It was being agile. It was pivoting on the moment, having to deal with things that just cropped up, and you just got on with it. And I think from your perspective, that grounding that you talk about was absolutely the making of us.
It was.
And we talked about it, like the four of us, or the four senior people in that team. Oh, I won't count myself in there. The three that I know have gone on to do pretty well for themselves. Yeah. And that's actually testament to the program itself.
Absolutely.
For anybody listening, Action Sport, I mean, someone will sit there and go, oh, I remember Action Sport. But Action Sport was basically a community outreach program that went round the city of York and other cities around the country, funded through the local authority. Yeah. But our job was to go and make people feel special in their own localities, bridge that gap between a leisure centre that was not convenient, maybe not on their bus pathways, maybe not, they weren't comfortable in going to them types of venues. Our job was to go to them and provide a service. So that's just a bit of background from an action sport perspective.
Yeah, it was two vans and a minibus full of equipment that we'd go around and do sporting activities with people who, at the time, would have been available during the day to take part in it. So it was people who are unemployed, people who are over the age of 60 or 70, young mums who were off work and looking for activity and somewhere for their children to be looked after while they did that, adults with learning difficulties, all those people who were around during the day who wouldn't necessarily access a sports centre or a swimming pool or a gym, but who wanted that social connection and also wanted to do some activity and spend some time enjoying themselves. And it was we used, I mean, crikey, we squeezed the life out of every school and leisure centre and community centre and back room across the city to put these things on. But it was incredibly successful. And I will just have to say, I mean, he's our former boss, Mick, who we've spoken about before, he did allow us an awful lot of rope just to get on with that. Yeah. He did basically let us have carte blanche to run that program as we saw fit. And, all credit to him, because he could have sat us down and said, right, this is what I want you to do and this is when I want you to do it. And it wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful. Yeah. He just let 4 young lads crack on with it.
Yeah, he gave us the platform, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't think it's the wrong way of putting it. We made that what it was. And I think, if I'm honest, I know you can't go back to these things, but if this sort of program existed now, it would be a massive success.
Yeah, I agree.
The impact would be huge, particularly now when people do need that local outlet to be able to do that. People do need those social outlets. It would be a massive success now, but someone would need to fund it because it's not a big profit making.
Well, there's your message to the local authorities and government and Sport England and people like that, isn't it? It's that is something that is absolutely in their wheelhouse to do, and would make an impact. Definitely.
If you want people to go out and be active, it's no good sticking a notice up saying 10% discount at your local gym. Take the activity to them, because that's where they're based and that's where they are.
Yes,
and you can make a massive impact.
You're spot on. Talk to me a little bit about, compassion was one of the again, we probably didn't know it at the time, but compassion for all walks of life, I think we learnt there.
100%. Yeah.
And let we touch on our friends at Tangholm. That for me is probably where my emotion comes from quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
The passion to support people, the passion to help people with learning difficulties, or just not as lucky as we are. I just found that so emotionally charged, but the compassion towards that was brilliant. I mean, we had such fun doing it, but one of the things was we were real with them.
Yeah. I think that what I still hold now in more or less everything I do in terms of work with children in school who have got special needs, with adults with learning difficulties, in any walk of life where people are facing a challenge, excuse me, came from action sport, which is look at what people can do, not what they can't do.
Yeah.
And when you start flipping that switch, you're surprised yourself, because people look at all sorts of different people as to what they can't do, and that, oh, well, we need to do this because they can't do that. If you look at it and go, well, let's see what they can do, let's see what people in these situations can actually do, and then you provide it, the impact, and I'll keep using the word throughout this whole interview, the impact is life changing. And I still see some of the individuals that we work with during that period, and we're going back nearly 30 years, and they will still say hello to me, and they will still call me by name, because of the impact that we had working in that environment. And as you say, we did it probably in our own way, because we didn't know any better, but it worked. Yeah. It worked. And I still see people like Bernie around York, who was in charge at the community centre in Tangholm, always get a big hug, always get a hello, how you doing? You know how effusive Bernie is and everything. Always asks after you, always asks after family. And it's that relationship that you build by having that connection with people. Yeah. And it's that connection with people, and again, it's still there now. I still work with that ethos of you connect with people first, then you start working with them. It's no good walking in to speak to someone about a job or about work or about a contract, whatever it is, and that's what the meeting's about. Connect with the individual, build that relationship, and then the rest follows.
Yeah,
but it's that, and that's what we did for 2.5 years. We built connections with people, and it was great.
Yeah, it was a special time. So foundation set.
Yeah.
Action spot done.
Yeah.
I know you spent a bit of time at the Barbican Centre, and that's kind of where you started to open up the operations side of your world.
Yeah.
What was the learnings from that? I mean, that was a big centre at the Barbican.
It was, yeah. And I mean, in those days, it was there was the swimming pool, there was the gym, we had saunas and physios and sunbeds, and we had the creche, we had the soft play area, we had sports halls, climbing walls, the theatre, cafe, bar. I mean, it was a big old centre, was the Barbican. I was one of the duty managers, so I was, you did your shifts, and we did 8-hour blocks, and you were in charge of the centre during that time with the support staff, senior support staff. And it was, I mean, again, it's about relationships. It's about working with. The difference between that and the action sport thing was you were then dealing with customers rather than with people.
Yeah.
And that was the subtle change, is that action sport was all about the people who came to the sessions. Barbican Centre is customers, and customer carries a figure after it because that's what you're there for. And so that was, I mean, it was enjoyable. It was a good team to work with. Met some good people there. It served its purpose in as much as the operational side of leisure is a different beast because you start putting figures after everything, and it is about bums on seats, and you do have to then go through the challenges of what if and if this doesn't work or if this doesn't come off, what's the repercussions of that, and you have to take all that into account. As well as the daily operation of it all, there's a bit of routine, isn't there? You open up, you unlock these doors in this order, you do the pool tests, you open up for customers, you welcome the same people in every morning. We're there at 6 o'clock, and all that side of stuff, which can become a little bit of a daily routine and not much changes. But again, in terms of having an understanding of the operation side of a leisure centre, 3 years spent in one of the bigger ones in the country with all the different aspects of it, is that now when we're talking about consulting on a new leisure build or consulting on an operation plan for a new building, I can speak to that with a degree of confidence of knowing that I've done that. And I've worked in it. I've been on very much on the shop floor. Your duty managers aren't sort of sat up at the top just checking everything's okay. You are actually dealing with everything day to day, from a very upset customer to a where do I park my pushchair type of question. So it's another layer. So if the action sport experience gave me that real grounding in connection with people, then the operation side of it gave me that grounding, if you like, in customer experience and what works and what doesn't work in that environment.
And there was, and obviously you to be fair to you, Andy, you followed a little bit of the same trend as I did, because there was that balance between sports development and operation. And I think I went missing for 3 years in New Zealand, but that was the combination of sports development and operations. How do we make sports development work in a facility that then bridges that gap between the people and the customer? And that's kind of the route that you did as well, because you ended up starting to get back into sports development in a big way, and that's kind of like your trajectory into it with the schools and stuff. A big turning point for me with the sports development stuff was we used to have a group of lads who on a fairly regular basis would break into the Barbican Centre and go and kick a ball around in the sports hall. And one of the staff would go down, they'd shoo them out, and about half an hour later, he'd go back down, they'd be back in there. And it was a pain in the backside until one evening I went down there and I said, right, lads, we've got nothing in here for the next hour. If I give you the hall for an hour, will you just clear off afterwards? Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. They played for an hour, I went down, and they'd gone. All right. The next night, they came into the reception, asked to speak to me and said, is the sports hall free? I said, right, you've got half an hour. Went down, half an hour later, they'd gone. And every evening, they would come in, they'd check it was okay, and if it was, and there were no bother at all, to the point where another group of lads turned up who started to be a pain in the backside, and they kind of saw them off and said, no, you don't mess this up for us, we've got a good thing here, go away. And that kind of... And the Barbican Centre were quite on board with that. They were, okay, yes, you've solved a problem there, because they were being a pain. Now they're not. And to be honest, they're doing no harm whatsoever. And it was at that point I thought, this thing called sports development, of getting people to be active, getting people into facilities or to a football pitch or wherever it might be, could be the way that I want to take my career. Yeah. And that's when I started seriously looking at sports development as the next step, and was then in the right place at the right time when a position became available to move into the sports development team in York. Thinking on your feet again, right? That for me is exactly, we go back to our action squad, but you thinking on your feet, that combination of sports development and operations work perfectly there. You've dealt with an issue by being creative. And that for me is it's one, compassion to what maybe they're going through. Can't afford to either use a facility. They're just wanting to play.
Yeah.
There's respect there, gained straight away because you've actually negotiated with them and worked it out, and that's become the norm for them.
Yeah.
They've then become your trusted, almost partners, because they're shooing people away and don't muck it up for us.
Yeah.
I just think that journey is classic of the way that your brain, but our brain works in how do we deal with them issues and how do we break the barriers down. So that's just classic for me. You roll forward, because then all of a sudden you're into the school sports partnership work, and again all of them traits are followed through, right?
Yep.
You're having to run programs, you're having to deliver on activity sessions and that kind of stuff. What was that journey like? Because you're still doing a little bit of that, right?
I still do that now, and I really enjoy working with the school sports partnerships, because it's you've got an opportunity to influence, shape, mould, impact young people, and when you get to our age, it's very difficult to change. We are who we are by this stage. With young people, you've got an opportunity to actually give some shape to them, give them some positive opportunities. And the way I always describe it to young people when I do lots of leadership stuff with young people, which I absolutely love doing, because you get to see some real characters out of that. And there will always be one or two people who you'll think, crikey, what fantastic leaders they are. And you speak to the school and they go, they are nothing but a pain in school. And you go, but with me, and you give them a responsibility and they're fantastic. And so I always say to people, particularly around leadership, is at your age, at sort of 12 to 16, the opportunities you have in your life are as wide as you want. Okay. You can't make your arms go wide. That is everything you've got to do. Don't narrow it down by reducing the opportunities you have. Don't do something silly, which means that is now no longer available to you. Don't make a choice that means that you now can't do that in your life. So the easy one is, until you do your GCSEs, you've got all this opportunity. If you muck up your GCSEs, you'd start to narrow that down. So don't do that at 16. Don't leave school with less opportunity than you could have. And then once you start to get a bit older, you start to naturally find a bit of a channel, and you don't necessarily need those opportunities, but it's nice to have the option to go back to them. Yeah. And this is kind of what the whole point of the university thing was, is that I didn't particularly want to go and I didn't particularly enjoy it. But by doing it and getting a degree, I've kept open a certain area that I've never needed and I might never need. But if I ever want to do something that someone says to me, have you got a degree qualification? I can go, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And I can do that. So the school sports stuff is really important, because you can have that impact at that level when people are impressionable, particularly young people are impressionable. You've also got the opportunity to then see what you're doing grow through those individuals, human contact, right? So you've got the opportunity to put something in place, and at the end of it go, do you know what? I can remember when that child first came into this program and they wouldn't do this, they wouldn't do that, and now look at them. Yeah. And the amount of and what's really pleasing, although it does make me feel old, is when you get people come up to me at events now, running school events, and they'll say, do you remember when I was one of your sports leaders? And I go, crikey, hi Emily, what are you up to now? I've been teaching for 7 years. And it's like, all right. Okay. Wow. Yeah. And they've gone on and they've done these things, and now they're then imparting that on other people. And you don't win them all, and that's the thing you've got to realise pretty quickly, is you don't win them all, and there will always be some children that just are on a path, and you've got to try your best, but not get too hung up on it if it doesn't work. But the ones where it does work is, you take those wins home on a night, and you're really proud of that, and you've done a good day's work.
Yeah, and celebration, isn't it? I mean,
and that's why I'm one of the things that I really enjoy doing is finding programs that are for kids who are facing challenges, kids who are facing challenges not just at school but in their lives. And if you can provide an opportunity for them that they can grab hold of, that's your big win of the day. When you go home and you've done something that's actually of real value and it's going to make an impact, and you do celebrate those. And that's why working within the school sports network, it's a great place to be, because you do have some great days doing that.
Yeah. So you're still doing a little bit there, but that I think gave you the confidence to step out on your own a little bit and start doing your own stuff as well.
Well, doing the school sports stuff is great, because it's a real it's a program of work that is funded by government, and it gives you opportunities to do those things because that funding's there. Our own stuff that sits alongside that is an opportunity to then expand my own sort of thing, my own personal reach, to be able to do some different things, to challenge myself a bit more in different areas that are not just the same as doing the stuff with the schools. It's a different way of giving myself something to get the juices flowing, if you see what I mean. In terms of, okay, I want to be able to have an impact in a different area. I want to be able to do something today that is not necessarily what I did yesterday. And so by then going into the business with Seamless, is that it has enabled us to I suppose challenge yourself. It's just working in a different environment, working with different people, taking yourself out of that comfort zone each and every day, and making your own way in delivering stuff. And it's been great. It's been really, really interesting to sort of step into that commercial world, working with private sector as well as public sector, and just being able to develop that infrastructure that we're able to now, we've got some really exciting projects on the go with that.
So just for the audience, just explain a little bit what Seamless Software are doing, how it kind of came about, and where we're going.
Well, it started off with it was fulfilling a need, to be honest. It was a way of being able to get direct feedback from young people on a system that we were able to then analyse the data once we'd got it. So it was a result of pupil voice data and student voice data being something that was really important. So there was you communicate, collaborate, co-produce these programs of work. Well, how do you collaborate, communicate, and co-produce projects of work if you're not asking the young people? And it was all a little bit kind of there was forms to fill in, or there's questionnaires, but this database is then able to sort of collate all that allows you an analytical platform to then start to really focus some of the work where it's actually needed most. So it was born out of that, and then it was kind of, well, other people said, well, that would be something we would like to use. That would be something that, and we realised that there was then a value to that. And over the last 8 years, working with different people, working with individuals within education, within PE departments, with head teachers, to shape the system to get it to be what people now want it to be, to come up with the product that we have now, that is now providing lots of schools with the opportunity to gather pupil voice data, to analyse that data, and then to be able to have those really impactful programs, because the analytics show you who are the young people you're going to have the biggest impact on.
Yeah, and that for me, again, I know we've talked before about the honesty of children, and sometimes probably boxed into a certain way of thinking because of the hierarchy. But this pupil voice is powerful, right?
It's the most powerful tool at your disposal.
You are challenging what probably the national governing bodies are saying, but in the right way, because at the end of the day, pupils' voice or young people's voice is what should be steering what they want to do and how they want to do it.
Well, the very definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So by having the pupil voice input, by having young people telling you, us, them, what it is that they want to do, why they want to do it. And that's the important bit, is the why. So, I want to play football, I want to go to dodgeball, I want to dance. Okay, well, that's great, but why? Well, because I want to be with my friends, I want to be healthy, I want to spend time in this environment rather than outside. I'd like to, that sort of thing. Okay, now we can do that. So it's about being able to, put into context what it is that young people actually want to do. And as you say, they will tell you what they want them to do. And the a big thing that's in schools is the "you said we did" thing.
Yeah.
So if you're going to ask pupils what they want, you then have to deliver on it. You can't ask them what they want. They all say we'd love to do dance, and then you don't put on a dance session.
Yeah.
Because then next time you ask them, they're going to go, "What's the point? You didn't do it last time."
You don't listen.
So yeah, and that's where the co-produce thing comes in. Is that once you've got, so it might be that you've got a group of 14, 15-year-old girls who aren't engaged in PE at all, regularly turn up without kit, regularly come up with reasons not to do it. They want to do dance, right? So, right, where do you want to do it? Do you want to do it in the school hall? No, want to do it in the dance studio. Right, we'll get the dance studio booked out. Do you want a teacher there? No, just give us some music. Right, okay, give us some music. A couple of weeks in, you can, member of staff can go in and then say, right, okay, do you want to put some formality to this, bit of structure to this? Only a little bit. Yeah, okay. They've had a bit of time to sort of dance on their own. Do you want to be in a show? Oh, yeah, we'll be in a show. Yeah. Do you want to go down to a primary school and show the kids what you've been up to? Really? Yeah, I'd love to do that. Right, do you want to train to be a dance leader? And do what? Go down to primary schools, teach the kids to dance in a primary school. Can we do that? Yeah.
It's brilliant psychology, isn't it?
And you build that program, and it's because you know that you've got a group of girls who wanted to do dance. They weren't interested in netball. They want to be outside in the wet. They don't like getting changed. They don't like going into big change rooms and doing all that. Put them in a dance studio, get them engaged, and then start to build on it. And before you know it, they're being active, they're engaged, they're doing after-school clubs. They're then enthusing the next generation of kids who are coming to that school. Like, oh, I can't wait to get to that school because I'm going to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then again impactful. Then you're starting to make that. And again, it goes back all the way back to actual sports, human connections.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is passing that ability for people to connect on to somebody else. So you're giving those leaders the tools to then go into a primary school, connect with a young person in a primary school, and then just watch that grow.
Yeah.
Because I can go into not with dance clearly, but I can go into a primary school and I can run a session, and I'll back myself to do it pretty well, and the teachers can do it very well, and you'll get a certain level of engagement from kids. You send a 14-year-old in, and they can do it as well as you, and you see the reaction you get from the kids. It's completely different. It's wow.
Yeah. They're on their level, aren't they?
Did you see?
Yeah, it's impact again, like you say.
Is Dave coming in next week? Is Sarah coming in next week? That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Which school are they at? When I go there, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Opens. You see it literally, eyes open. This is going to be. We've got big people in here today.
Yeah.
And that's the real impactful stuff. I love doing that. Watching, just setting leaders up and then standing back and just watching them do it. And the thing is that I never get better comments from adults than I do about good young leaders.
Yeah.
Get a lot of thank you, great event, enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that session. That competition was great. Thanks for doing that. But I will get staff and parents who come out and go, those leaders are good. Crikey, what have you done with them? Where do you get them from? How do you run that program? And they want to know because they're really good. And as I say, when they then come back to you 12 years later and say, I used to be one of your leadership programs.
Yeah, I love that though. I love it. Transition from pupils to people now. So we're starting to get into the adult world of, private sector or local authority sector within the leisure field. How are you finding that transition?
Well, again, it goes back to that something challenging, something to get you up and excited in the morning. Really, really enjoyed the transferring the system's called Kabaka, and we've always had various ways of pronouncing and spelling that. It's always interesting, but it is Kabaka. And that's the school system. So now we've developed Kabaka Pro, which is our non-education platform, if you like. And that's been really, really exciting. It's been a really interesting journey, setting it up, moving it from education to a more corporate world. It has to look different. It has to feel different. The education one is very much school-based, and it looks like it's a school-based thing, which works great in education. When you're presenting that to a private sector operator, it can't look the same. Yeah. So we've had to do all that. We've had to take a lot of guidance advice on that. There's the whole development of what the functionality of it is, because they're looking at different things and they want different responses. A lot more sort of free text answers rather than multiple choice answers. School system, you set it up for young people, you give them an option. It's you frame the question to give the choice of options that they then can give. But with adults and within private consultation, you're looking more at what they want to tell you rather than giving them a list that might not be compatible. So it's been interesting getting that all set up and good to go. And now we're just looking for that opportunity within the sort of the health and fitness market, I think, initially, to be able to demonstrate, if you like, how this new platform can work and how it can really support membership, how it can support retention of membership. You and I were both at that conference retention convention in Warwickshire. Loved the analogy about the bathtub, and that if you're topping up with members at one end, how are you stopping them from trickling out the other end? And we sort of trying to position ourselves as the plug, if you like, to put in the bath, that by getting that customer engagement, by getting that membership feedback and creating that two-way process that then creates a personal engagement, so digital interaction, personal engagement, so that your PTs, your staff get to know the individuals who are coming in and out of the centre, be able to talk to them, use their names. I see that you're interested in this. Have you tried this? I note that you've put down on our last feedback thing. There's that you wanted to try spinning. We're putting a spinning class on at this time when we know you're available. That sort of interaction. As well as then the engagement through some of the challenges and things like that. So it's about positioning it to be able to fulfil that requirement for retention, and hence the sort of the plug analogy in the bathtub.
It's exciting, mate. It's exciting, and obviously we've spent a bit of time working with you around that kind of journey that you're on. So it's exciting to see where it's going to go. One godfather to another godfather. What would Godfather Pope say to his godson Aaron about growing up now in this era? What would be the bit of advice that you would give him?
Well, firstly, as you know, we're incredibly proud godparents of Aaron.
And vice versa.
And yes, and you, of course, and Sarah are Henry's godparents, and so it's lovely to watch Aaron grow and develop, and the way that you and Sarah are shaping this wonderful young man and giving him his wings and letting him go and fly. It's a different perspective as a godfather relationship. And appreciate we don't have to do the disciplining stuff. We'll leave that to you. But it's lovely because of how the relationship that we have as families, or as family. It's wonderful to see and hear about everything that Aaron does. But the advice I would give him is it goes back to that: just don't narrow your options down. Keep everything available to you until you really know what you want to focus on, and then when you get to that point, give it 100%. Have no regrets about it. Give it 100%. If it doesn't work, look at something else. Because you'll always have backup. He'll always have people around him. He'll always have the right people around him to give him the support and stuff that he needs to be able to. If he falls over, people will pick him up. But just give yourself every opportunity and then give it 100%.
I love that.
And don't be told no. Don't accept no. If you don't, challenge things.
Keep it wide and
but he'll be absolutely fine, will Aaron.
And finally, mate, what any entrepreneurial leaders coming through? What's the one piece of advice that you would give them rather than just the narrowing from a young perspective? What's that kind of like, one Mr. Pope, Andy Pope takeaway that you would give any young leader growing up now into the world of leisure?
Keep an open mind. Don't close your mind off to one or two ideas. Don't dismiss something because it's come from somebody else or it's come from a different place or it might have come from a different industry and you think, well, that's not applicable. Just keep an open mind to everything, because there will be a time when you're sat in a meeting or you are filling out a contract or you are talking to somebody and you'll get I remember that from somewhere. And it might just be the thing that helps you in that situation. So just make sure that you keep an open mind, you keep an open relationship with everybody you meet, because there's lots of times that you might come across each other in. It's a small world. It's sport and leisure and health and wellbeing. and just go for it. Go for it. If you think what you're doing is going to add value, if you think what you're doing is going to impact somebody in some shape or form, go for it.
And last one from me. What's the 3 values that you've taken through your career that you would impart on other people? What's the 3 main values that you think you've got to have that?
Yeah, honesty, loyalty, integrity.
Wow, that was sharp.
Always be honest with yourself and be honest with the people around you. No point in not being. You'll get found out if you're not. So always be honest. I value loyalty more than anything else, because if you are loyal, then you can expect loyalty in return. And the people that you work with, the people that you interact with, it's important. It's relationships. Yep, it's going back to connections with people, and have the integrity to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver. Have the integrity in what you are doing and why you are doing it. And if you have a why, if you have a reason for what you're doing with things, whether it's work, your personal life, sport, wherever it might be, if you have that integrity with your why, then you'll always make an impact somewhere. So those 3, dead easy for me.
Fantastic, mate. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure